Good morning, everyone. On behalf of Daily FT and Sikta Holdings, warm welcome to you, and thank you very much for making the point to sort of join us for this discourse on cybersecurity. We'll have about an hour's engagement with you, so that let's make sure that make the best use of today's session. The proceedings will be, we'll have a keynote by Belly Richanto from Indonesia, and then we will also have a panel discussion involving all our partners. I know we have several of our, some of the guests are all who have attended many of our CEOs forum before. Just want to show of hands, if you don't mind, as people who are here for the first time for the CEO's breakfast forum on cybersecurity. Anyone who is coming for the first time, just to know the kind of, okay, good. Thank you very much. We are awaiting the a presentation by Billy.
Why so quiet? Welcome, welcome, welcome. What happened if you lost your mobile phone? You are nothing. Can I have your mobile phone? No, throw it back. I will plug your phone. And then what you can do? Your e-banking, your account, Google Authenticator, Microsoft account, everything is on your the phone. So without realize, it's actually a mobile phone. No digital, no signature required.
So I'll start with maybe Anbao as to, in your perspective, how serious is the crisis, or is just a marketing slogan for IT companies? Share some insights.
Sure, thank you so much, and thank you very much for having me over. Before I start, I'll be a little hygienic on putting forward a disclaimer. Whatever I share as views are my personal views, do not reflect beliefs and thoughts of Google. I think it was a good start with the keynote speaker outlining how the attack surface has changed. Now let's take a step back. We saw the pandemic unfortunately hit us, and in some shape or form all of us realized that we changed the way we were living. With the click of a button, we were able to get groceries delivered to our doorstep. And that entire digital transformation, which is no longer something of the future, is what we've already experienced. Now, if you look at the multi-decade transitions that the industry has seen, started with web, moved to mobile, fast forward today with the digital transformation, you've seen a lot of cloud adoption also happening. All of this is opening up the attack surface from a cyber perspective and is compelling all of us to relook at how we defined our postures within our enterprises, relook at how we've been running our security operations, if we still want to embrace digital transformation. Now, before I talk about the crisis up ahead and what are those critical elements which are playing a role, I'll take a recent example of how this problem is getting magnified. Last year, as Google, we faced the largest DDoS attack, and we termed it as about 40 million requests per seconds hitting us. It was in the news. We said, we were able to manage that attack. Great. Fast forward, come back to this year. Recently, we announced that we hit another high of a cyber attack, a DDoS attack, that was 400 million requests per second. And just to draw an analogy to the number, this is, in 2 minutes, these are number of requests that Wikipedia sees over a month. That's the scale of the attack. Let's look at the attacker front first. We've experienced ransomware attacks in organizations. It's becoming a common situation for a lot of organizations. Now, those are driven by e-crime actors who pretty much come in, throw in a ransomware, and they try to extort money out of it. But there's something called the nation-state pivot, where nation-state actors who are pretty much involved in bringing down critical infrastructures, involved in nation-state attacks, they are focusing attention back to enterprises as well, because clearly there's money to be made. And what it means to us is we need to up our game to improve our security operations to be able to handle those kind of sophisticated attacks. The second is this entire data deluge issue that we will have to now accept and work towards addressing. With digital transformation, you will generate more data. Detection, be it 2003 or 2023, has always been an issue. You may go back to the world of security and start looking at every security control that you have, be it your firewalls or IPS, and ask yourself, how efficient have you been in your detection capability? Are you generating false positives? And the answer is yes. Has it drastically changed today? No. Imagine how this problem gets amplified when you are now looking at a data deluge in your organization with so much of data coming in. How are you going to scale to drive detections in that large data that is being created in your organization? So that's the number 2 problem. So you need better analytics, you need better capabilities to scale with so much of data and siphon out those threats that are meaningful to you. And the third, and I think that's the most important issue that we have to address, we've been speaking of skills in cybersecurity for the last so many years. I've been a part of this conference a couple of years back, and the number 1 essence of all those conferences has been we need to create better cybersecurity skills. I'll throw in another flavor to it. Yes, we need cybersecurity skills, but how many of us have taken a step back to embrace the thought of democratizing security expertise? What do I mean by that? Today, if you have a team available to you running IT operations, how flexible are you to move these people into the world of cybersecurity? Not very flexible. You're looking for the best-in-class skills. You're struggling to retain people. There's a shortage of cybersecurity people in the industry. What are we doing to ensure that we democratize the expertise where more people can start contributing? That's problem statement number 1. Second, you may buy the best-in-class tools. There is no dearth of good tools available today. But you have to go back and create the right level of awareness with people to ensure that you're not making it difficult for your attackers to walk into your environment with your keys, rather breaking in.
Vipin, I just like to take from a visa perspective, since you do deal with a lot of digital commerce, digital transactions. What's your take?
It's like preaching to the priests. So you are the CEOs, you run your own business, you know how things today are, and I would just put the same disclaimer which Anubhav put. So views are my own. I do have a script from Visa. I might go off script at times. We have been partnering with SICRA over a period of time for this event. Saw most of you last time, and I hold 2 conflicting thoughts in my mind. I see it as a crisis which has already happened, and I also see it as a great opportunity. So just as Anubhav was mentioning, it's like the future which has walked to us. It's unevenly distributed. So either we share something that has happened to us, some have been affected by us. In some of the environment, the fraudsters are already there. We don't know when it will surface, and they are pretty nascent, they lie latent, and they surface at a particular point in time. Having said that, and last time also we spoke about cybersecurity is not something which is left to the tech teams now. We had a discussion around the cybersecurity and its importance, and it being a board level conversation. We do see from Visa's perspective pervasive threats which are emerging from different players, and the motives are different. They can be economic, financial, political. Anubhav spoke about the nation state, etc. I have been part of this industry for almost 25 years, and I can tell you last 5 years have not been the same, and last 5 months are not going to be the same. AI came into being, or the generative AI form of it came into being in November 2022, and we are seeing the massive disruptions it is causing. To the point on the large DDoS scale on Google, all of us are now connected, so we are hyper connected today. There are more devices. More than half of the world's population was on internet during the COVID. And it's not something which is restricted to payments industry. It's something which has happened in the healthcare industry as well. And to just take an example from India, where the healthcare sector has received millions of cyber attacks in 7 or 8 months. In fact, one of the hospitals was forced to reschedule emergency operation, redirect patients to different hospitals, etc. From a number perspective, cyber crime, and these are all public data published by different agencies, today cause trillions of dollars of loss. If you translate it as CEOs, and you are very good at numbers, it translates to millions of dollars of loss per day, translates to thousands of dollars of loss as we speak, per second losses. From a visa perspective, there isn't a day where we see that the data breach is not reported. And the other thing, and the point, the impactful point Belly made, while he could have made, anybody could have made that presentation. So identity theft, we are seeing, is on the rise. I don't know whether you were behind that or not.
What's the scale of the real challenge? What's the crisis or the threat from a global perspective, from a regional perspective?
Sure. I think thanks, and thank you, Sisra and FT, for inviting PCI security standards to this beautiful country and to this conference. And I'm not sure. Let me quickly give you a brief. What PCI Security Standard Council does. So the PCI Security Standard Council is formed by the 5 major card networks, and one of them is with us, Visa, Mastercard, Amex, JCB, Discover, and JCB. And we recently also added one of the strategic member to the council is UnionPay. And the core goal for PCI Security Standard Council is to create a lot of education and awareness. And I think we just touched point, on the education and awareness, and that's the key area that the PCI Security Standard Council focuses on. And in addition to developing these standards around to protect the payment data. Now, the payment card industry, the data security standards is a council, that caters to the need of the industry, where you implement these standards. We provide you the supports on how you should be implementing these standards with the right support that we can give it back to the industry. And also, the standards are designed to protect the payment data. And in recently, also we have started advocating around these standards can still be adopted to protect any kind of data or information. So it could be your personal information, or it could be anything that is related to the payments. So these standards are really robust and helps in protecting. We call them the gold standards, and they're the only technical standards that are available today across the world, where we are trying to solve the problem of the payment theft that we are seeing. Now, not sure how many of you are aware of the PCI standards and how many of you have been adopting these standards, but I feel, I've been in the country, been visiting country in my previous roles when I was working for the qualified security assessors who does the audit on these standards, and been worked with several banks in the country, and I'm sure that maturity level has gone up. And in fact, I think way back in 2017 when I met Mr. And I think that's the point where everything started, and I think it's almost like now 6 years close to, and I see that maturity when I talk to the stakeholders across the region, and the data security is definitely one of the key priority of what I could sense it. But more importantly, from the PCI Security Standard Council point of view, we need more involvement, we need more engagement from the industry, we need the stakeholders to come forward and influence these standards, because that's what is critical, because the technology is evolving. You see, what just Vipin said, what we can't just predict what's going to be next, right? So that's going to be very critical. If you're involved within the payment card industry security standard council, you can provide feedback, you can give us the technologies that you're working on. We can work with the standards team to see how our standards can be made more robust to protect the payment data, right? So that's one thing that we are currently focusing on, trying to get more engagement, more involvement, so that we are able to help everyone in the payment ecosystem. The second more important thing is the training and education. That's the core focus that we are with, and I've been, in last 4 or 5 months, I've been traveling across the world and speaking on this topic. COVID just halted us for some time, but we kept doing those sessions with virtually, and the core is to just get a lot of education awareness, to get your teams trained on how these standards can help you protect the payment data within your organization. As it's just not the risk team, it should be the business involved, it should be IT involved, it should be the finance guys involved. Everyone is part of the game, right? So we can't just say that only the risk team are required to get these kind of trainings. Everyone in the ecosystem, everyone within your organization is equally responsible to protect the payment data. And that's where there are certain trainings that the PCI Security Standard Council provides globally, and I think it is going to be a good activity if you really want to skill up your resources to get trained on to protect the payment data.
More to Bhushan as to how different, how is it as bad as what we hear in Sri Lanka? What's your own take, considering your own engagement with the private sector in Sri Lanka?
Thanks, Nista. Good morning to everybody. I think compared to cybersecurity of pre-pandemic and the post-pandemic, the threat is huge. As we all know, during the pandemic time that we digitized many of our operations, went into the digital platform, and at that time when I was talking to many customers, and they were not very concerned on the security, they were concerned on the business continuity and the business operations. So he said, leave aside the security, I just want my business back on track, or I want to serve my customers. So it was on hold, and some of the platforms and developments were done overnight or within a couple of days. So we also did one platform within 7 days, but that was secure. And we see a lot of guys moving into the digital platform. So at the same time, I personally see, I think it is what the globe is also talking about, moving from the concept of cybersecurity, what we had pre-COVID and what we are having now, which is called zero trust. Basically, you do not trust anybody. Now, all the CEOs, I think one of the common, I would say a mistake or something that I hear on boards, that you are more interested in the amount of investments that you have done for your cybersecurity. I have spoken to a few people, and then they say, look, I've just bought my next generation firewall, I spent $1 million, I'm secure. But you're secure until you get attacked. Because see, it's not the money that you spend. You would have bought the Ferrari or the Mercedes or whatever the Cadillac that you wanted, but if the road is not set for that, you can't drive. The same thing, you can buy the next generation firewall, but if you have not done the proper settings, then you're not secure. Most of the IT security guys will know the minute that you put your security settings at a higher level, it affects the business operations. So there'll be complaints coming in the operation teams and say, look, what have you guys done? I have to have so many two-factor authentications or many other authentication factors, or the system has got slower and blah, blah, blah. So then what happens? To avoid complaints about the IT team going into the senior management, they slowly take off certain protocols or certain security settings that they have put in your next generation firewall. But the CEO of the board does not know, but you are still sitting happy and pretty in the board thinking that I have spent $1 million and I'm secure. Now, pandemic happens late 2019, Sri Lanka 2020 March, and what happens? Overnight, country was shut down and asked to stay at home, And what happened to the business operations? So all the CEOs were at home, and I can imagine, I remember only few people even given passes to get to office, and that is only on critical services. Now, how would you get your business run? I'm sure you would have called your IT security team and said, put your securities down, I want my team to access the critical infrastructure or whatever the softwares what you have inbuilt, and I want them to access, start working from home. So what the IT security guys did before is they secure the perimeter defenses. When somebody comes into your organization, you are in a perimeter you have secured. They block your USB ports, you can't use USB ports, block internet. They have all security controls, privilege access management, and so many things were there while protecting in that network. But now, during the pandemic, you put that down and you open up, as Billy says, it would be a buffet table for the hackers. You can eat whatever you want, and you can, sometimes you may not even know. That's the most dangerous part. Until your business goes down, you do not even know if anybody has penetrated and stealing data or erasing data. So then it comes to operations, and then suddenly now everyone asked to work from home, use your own device, or company use devices. But then that particular device security is also have put down because the request of the senior management for operations. Then what happens, your kids started online schooling, they don't have a device, you have no place to buy, they use your device. Earlier, they says that you can't use your device. So you had security protocols that you cannot use your device for personal work. But now when you're at home, there's no choice. Kid cannot log into school, online classes, so you give your device. And they don't end up in that. They may go into some other sites, sometimes accidentally maybe download a movie or download a song. Any free download have a lot of free other gifts will disrupt you.
Moving on to Billy, thank you for coming out in public. Your true, really scared performance. Just given your engagement with companies, what's the common weakness you come across from CEOs or board of directors when you talk about security? What's the common sort of weakness?
Well, we know that security is like in the real life, in the real world. We can't guarantee your system will be secure, no. Even though we buy the high-end device, we buy the expensive device, we have all the procedures. Attacker is always one step ahead. But at least we have minimized the risk. I want to secure my house. I want to secure the building. What should I buy? Fire extinguisher, security guard. Okay. What else? Scanners over there. But still, there is a risk that this building can be attacked. 3 days ago, there's some country, I will but it's just to show you, but that country is actually what? They have very high-end technology. How can they can be attacked? How could they can be attacked? Same like in the IT system as well. It's just a matter of the risk. If let's say myself, I have been attacked, what is my risk? Only maybe I will be, my private picture will be get stolen. My holiday picture with my girlfriend will be stolen. That's only my risk. Okay? But if you are the CEO, okay, you're the management level. Once your data is already in the internet, and then someone spoof your email, someone can pretend like you are the CEO, and then someone can, after they spoof your email, spoof your desk, spoof your WhatsApp, pretending that you are who you are. Because remember just now I said, you are now is just a piece of mobile phone.
Would like to sort of make the first observation or a point? Yes.
Bhushan, you brought in a very interesting point, zero trust. I also want to add one more thing for the benefit of all the participants. We need to assume breach. Right? That's something which we don't do. Because we always assume that everything is fine, but we don't go look for that threat which probably is persisting. Right? So that's one observation. The second thing, I think as the C-suite of the organization, their decisions will be based on risk. Risk versus the benefit. Now when you look at cybersecurity, we all know that no amount of money is good. I think in recent times we've been talking about crisis. So what I want you, right, maybe Anubhav or others, can respond to this. While we talk about the crisis, from a Sri Lankan perspective, what would actually be deemed as a crisis for a business to continue and collapse?
Just a small observation with regard to Visa and Master. I think most countries we see data being taken out whilst you're shopping and whilst you're just carrying it in the wallet. So there are cards to block the credit cards. I have been also talking about this with a few, but I think the people who are issuing cards should look at the possibility of also either at even a cost, issuing those two cards to block the data. The other day I was at a international summit of this nature, and they wanted to hack the cards. Luckily I had 2 of those cards and they could not hack it. Also there are insurance policies. Whilst you're taking the card out to pay a merchant, that's the time the card is vulnerable. They can still steal your data. So there are policies like that as well. So I think these are some things which will evolve in time to come.
Thank you.
Governance framework, boardroom governance on cyber security. I'm also sitting in a couple of boards and chairing sometime. But I don't know whether we give some kind of prominence or we give the least kind of the prominence. Now even researchers, I have seen that even your daily FT paper one of those days, it says that generally we appoint supposed to be one of the experts among our board members, and he drives the whole thing. But whereas the other members sometimes they don't understand even the responsibility and the liability of these kind of breaches and being a board member. But in Sri Lanka, I must tell you, even up to now, I have not seen a tremendous kind of improvement in that aspect. Yes.
Yeah, it's just that ticking the box only rather than, yeah. I'll take one more question and then get the answers. Anyone else?
Now, say in a real life scenario, your IT guys come and tell you, look, we have got a ransomware attack and your operations been freezed. From the top, what's the best course of action that you have to take immediately?
Thank you.
Chandana, thank you for that. So I'll respond it by sharing what we call the 4 pillars of Visa's security strategy, and 3 of them revolve around data, and those 4th one is about empowerment. So the 3 strategies around data is protect data, then harness data, devalue data, and the last one is empower everybody. To the point you made on the card being vulnerable when it is taken out, so please do recall that the card itself has taken a long journey. Earlier there used to be max stripe card where the data could be taken out, card could be skinned, etc. Over a period of time, we have replaced them with chip cards, and so have banks in Sri Lanka done as well. In fact, we run a dedicated security roadmap for Sri Lanka. We launched it in September 2018. We refreshed it, Avanti, we refreshed it in February this year. So we take your feedback on how the roadmap should look like, etc. So that's one part of it. So it's very difficult to clone a chip card. Second, coming to the devalue pillar, now we have tools like tokenize or virtualize card numbers. So we found that on the acquiring ecosystem, and because there are a lot of intermediaries which have come up, the card data can be available with a lot of intermediaries, which is again an opportunity and prized assets which can be monetized by hacksters. We are encouraging people to move on to a tokenization journey. Some countries, the regulators have been supporting it. And if you look nearer home, we have worked very closely with RBI in last 2 years in making sure that the card data is not available and the other sensitive information is not available on the side where there is an opportunity for it to be hacked and misused. Coming to the third pillar which I spoke about was harnessing data. So harnessing data, of course, all our tools which we provide to the clients who use them, and we have got for every transaction we do send out a real-time score which in addition to the transaction being carried out, we basis what we have seen the behavior of that card on the network, etc., how it has been used, which merchants it have been used, what has been the maximum amount, etc. There are 500 such parameters. In real time, we also pass on a score between 0 to 100 to the issuer. The higher the number, the higher is the score. And the issuer, the bank which has issued the card, take a decision of either declining it, putting the transaction on hold and calling you up if you have been the one who has done the transaction. So there is a lot of things we continue to do. Last but not the least, Nitin spoke about standards, and we work very closely with TCI on these standards. And these standards are something not which were cast in stone. They have been evolving, and as we see more and different types of threats evolving, Nitin and the brands, card brands, partner in evolving those guidelines as well. One last point on cyber governance, sir. You are absolutely right. Two important developments that we have seen from visas, other markets. Governments have got more and more involved. So there are certain who have issued guidelines, who have made it a point to make sure that somebody at a board level is responsible for cyber side of things. That's one trend we are seeing which is emerging. Second is coming from regulators. In the AP market we saw in Singapore, now we are seeing in countries like Bangladesh, Nepal, India as well, where there are guidelines around cyber hygienes are evolving. It's not just about cyber security, what you do once you are hit, etc., and incident happens, but how you make sure as a board, as a company, and the customers you deal with, what are the cyber hygiene guidelines we can evolve.
I think I just want to add, I think Vipin just covered beautifully, is that only one thing, you want to be reactive or proactive. I think that's very, very critical. You have to start building the base and creating that infrastructure within your organization that helps you from any kind of such unforeseen incidents. I think that's what is very, very critical.
Thank you so much for the questions. Actually, I'm not so afraid because of the ransomware. Because why? We have backup system. That's the solution. Ransomware, they will encrypt your data, and then they will ask for the ransom. But as the security standard guideline, you must have backup system. Offline, on-site, hot backup, and collect and so on. That's the solution. But I'm more afraid to the extortion data breach. They steal our data, they give us a sample on the darknet. Okay, this is your data. Backup system, online system, firewall, everything is useless. I'm more afraid about that. So we're gonna need to think about that. For the ransomware, that's the solution. You must have a backup system. You know, DRP, disaster recovery protocol, swing to DRP, because when there's an incident ransomware infect your system, the incident handling management, they must Their job responsibility is to swing to the DRP to restore the system as soon as possible. But the more dangerous one is the insider trades. They compromise the system, they steal your data, boom. Sampai bank database is on sale on the internet. That's it. Thank you.
Anubhav, maybe just respond to Christy's question about how serious, how do you assess how serious?
Thank you, Suresh, for the question. I'll just repeat the question for everyone. I think the question was how deep can the crisis be, right, for Sri Lanka? By the way, it's a very thought-provoking question, and if I can guess the intent, I think it's also to bring out that this is not just a sense of denial that you have to live in, that I can't be attacked. You know, there's an age-old saying which says, lightning strikes 1 in a million, but you don't want to be that one, right? And crisis can mean different things for different people, and I'll break this response into two parts. One, at an entity level, you know, what does it mean to us as an entity and as a community, right? I'll give you both responses. At an entity level, and as Billy outlined, you know, it could be a ransomware attack where maybe some of your systems are encrypted, you've been asked to pay some money, if it's really critical data, you don't have a backup, you pay and you come out of it. But it doesn't end there. You need to understand what was the motive of the attack. The attack was not necessarily to just get some money out of you. It would potentially be a way and means for the attacker to get into your system, and if you've not done a thorough job to understand what was the extent of the compromise, the attack will repeat. And because you haven't done due diligence to identify what was the motive of the attack, you don't know what impact it will eventually have to your business, be it in terms of availability or in terms of compliance that you need to meet with your customers. So, as I said, crisis could mean different things for different entities. The more, and I would guess there'll be very few organizations today who would not embrace a digital transformation. The more you drive digital transformation and make that as a conduit for the success of your business, the more you're exposed. And in those scenarios, let's take an example of a shopping store. If you're going there and all your transactions are now happening over digital payments, you can't afford to have that system go down. I've had a personal experience recently where my SIM card wasn't working, and it was not working for 12 hours. Believe me, I felt I was handicapped. Unfortunately, it was a Sunday. Getting a replacement was becoming very difficult. I could not execute any transactions. We are so used to going ahead and walking into a store or any place where we go to a restaurant or wherever, where we just start tapping our mobiles today. I don't carry cash with me. So imagine, be it an entity doing business or you as an individual, what impact it will have if availability is compromised, or for that matter, your critical data or your identity is compromised. Let's elevate this now at a community level. Talking of crisis, because you know there is this sense that if it's a crisis, more people need to be involved. Let's go there. And I hope this never happens. Imagine a scenario where critical infrastructures like hospitals are impacted. And you got a critical case, you want to admit somebody into the hospital, you're not able to follow the admission process because your systems are down. Leave alone you're having backup processes in place where you may have a well-defined process saying, okay, if my digital system is down, here is the manual process I would use to continue with my business. But it causes delays. I'm sure we all know that rarely do we run those exercises to test those processes. And in critical infrastructures today, you can't afford those delays. As and when organizations and countries start looking at digitization to critical infrastructures like your electric systems, airports. We've seen airports having these issues of systems being compromised with ransomware attacks. They're not available. Flights get delayed. So there's no single definition to what a crisis is. It means different things to different people. But this is real. And we've got enough and more examples to illustrate what it could mean to either an individual or a community. I hope I answered.
Excellent. Thank you. Any more questions before we wrap it up? Yes.
Hi, Asela Vaidyalankara. I'm an independent consultant on cybersecurity, and I just wanted to pick up something that the gentleman from Google said, which is democratizing the entire cybersecurity space. Sri Lanka has, I'm sure everyone here in the room would acknowledge, we have a crisis where we are finding it difficult to secure people of talent, and of course, cybersecurity heritage and background. And what we're doing is, on the flip side, we are trying to build further higher walls by demanding higher standards, higher benchmarks, and so on and so forth. Taking nothing away from those benchmarks, but certainly the more people that we bring in under this tent, I think organizations would have a better chance of being secure. Perhaps your thoughts on that. Secondly, one thing I just wanted to highlight is we talk about, processes and making sure all of these things are there. And again, coming back to the point of vetting and having the right people, but the bad guys, they have very low, barrier to entry when it comes to getting into cybercrime. I'm sure Belly will agree. Anyone can. It's quite a democratic space there. Unfortunately, in the defense side, it isn't. I would like maybe the panel also to share their thoughts on it, if possible.
Thank you. Anyone? Yeah.
I think I'll answer the first question, and if I articulate the question, your intent is to know, yes, democratizing security expertise is important, but how do you draw a balance between technology investments vis-a-vis expertise? So I'm going to make a very thought-provoking statement here. I think gone are the days where you have to convince the board that security is important. I think we've reached a stage where there's enough and more awareness at the board. But all of us have to step back as leaders, especially the management cadre, to understand what part of that decision is made for compliance vis-a-vis effectiveness. And I'll give a response to your question specifically, but this is where it starts. More often than not, budgets are secured because the board's convinced that from a compliance perspective, these are three things that you need to achieve. And dollars of investments are made to buy technology. Where things tend to fail is, it's not that the technology has failed. You've got a tool, the attacker has a tool. If you start looking at the attacker and the defense ecosystem, the question to be asked is, what is your capability to operationalize that tool? So you could do a thorough job picking up the best-in-class tool to build capability for a specific attack vector, to prevent attack on a specific attack vector. You've done your analysis and you realize tool A is the tool, and they've a proven track record. You've done your evaluation, you've done your proof of concepts. This is it. Who is going back to question the ability to operationalize that tool? Because you've made the investment, you feel secure, but you unfortunately are not operationalizing it. And that's where there is this very critical element of how do you marry security expertise with whatever investment that you made on the tool. Point one. Point two, and what I was trying to elaborate when I spoke about democratizing expertise is, we need to remove those barriers for people to come into the world of security. Yes, you will not have a fully ready security researcher or a threat analyst, but how many of us are willing as leaders to let people move from what they're doing into this field and ramp them up? There's a lot of debate on AI contributing negatively into the world of security, but there's also a silver lining to it. With the advent of generative AI, you could use these capabilities to at least have mundane tasks made simple for the L1 analyst, where the dependency on L3 goes down. So it's more about accepting this and working towards building an ecosystem where the people element is not missed. I hope I answered that.
Excellent. If there are no questions, I'll give a last opportunity to anyone who was waiting all this time. Okay. Yes. Thank you for accepting the offer. I know that some people keep it for the last moment to ask the question.
This question and not only a question actually now, Belly mentioned security and the convenience are inversely related. Higher the security, lower the convenience and vice versa. So my question basically, a lot of shortcuts are happening to get the convenience. I remember even during COVID time, I said, even I told my team, sometimes I don't mind about the security, the speed of operation matters. So how do you balance these two I'm asking from the entire panel, because ultimately what matters, okay, if the security is not there, there will be an attack, and then finally it will give a bad impact. But until getting it to that point, what is important is how the operation, how the convenience of the operation, how convenient we can do that. So how do you balance between the convenience and the high security level? Because all the time we are talking about security, but less about convenience. That's my question.
I know there'll be some expand the answers, but I want a quick answer from each of the panel. I know it's a delicate balance. What would be a quick suggestion?
Yeah. Last time it was like that, more secure, more inconvenience. But nowadays there's a lot of technology thanks to Visa, Google, and so on. Now they have single sign-on, Google Authenticator, and so on. So the solution is, I believe one day there will be a balance, more a bit secure, convenience. Okay, but of course there is a downside. Yeah? Like just now, if you try to make a transaction, there's a pay wave. No need enter the PIN. Okay, you can even use mobile phone to pay. There's to use the QR code. Okay, that's convenience. Okay, and then there's a two-factor authentication and so on and so on and so on. Okay, so the solution is, it's just a matter of time to educate all of our users that this is actually convenience and more secure, not difficult, not like last time. Okay, I want to make a transaction, enter OTP, blah, 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 enter 2 times factor authentication. Okay, enter your PIN number, CVV, and so on, so on. Correct or not? The time, long time ago. So now thanks to Google, Visa, PCDSS, I'm sure they're developing the system that is more convenience, more secure. Thank you.
My perspective is that you cannot safeguard all data in an organization. So what is most important is data classification. Identify where your critical data is, and you separate them from the rush where the operational activities are. Because that's where you need the speed. That's where you need the convenience of the customers. But if you put both together in the same network, so you're compromising both. So if you containerize, take it out of from a normal network of day-to-day operational network and keep it separately, even if a ransomware attack comes in, so it is in 2 separate containers. So in that way, you can spend more money in trying to secure your critical information or data than trying to spend enormous amount of money to safeguard all data in your infrastructure, which is not necessary because most of it is the public data.
Not convenience for the SOC.
Our experience working with financial institutions globally show that it's not that users love only convenience. Users love friction also, and they want appropriate level of friction, and it comes from the materiality perspective. I can give you examples. Some of our financial institutions have built value-based limits where they challenge the customer if the transaction is above a certain threshold. That's one trend that we have seen. second, what we have also seen, and again we have worked with partners like PCI Council and EMV Code to have standards like or protocols like 3DS, where a lot of data is carried in the background, which allow financial institutions to take a call while simplifying or easing the convenience as you were looking at it. So I'll just go back to what Belly said in one line. There is a fine line balance which exists between both convenience as well as friction. And we have seen different use and ways financial institutions have been adopting it.
I think I'll just add, I think these cyber criminals are out there and they are innovating every day to infiltrate the data from your system and trying to gain access. And the motive is very simple, is the financials. Now, security is an ongoing process. You can't just expect security to happen overnight. So you have to start building your systems and the infrastructure in a way that you're able to sustain and you're able to meet to the requirements, the ongoing requirements and the changes that are happening in the ecosystem. And more importantly, and kind of a global collaboration that are happening across the world, I think you should be part of those ecosystem and understand what is happening. Because sometimes what happens is that we are not aware of what is happening outside our comfort zones, right? So you have to be aware of what is happening and you're being abreast on the situations so that you can tackle them. I think that's what my take would be.
Thank you very much. Some interesting observations. As I said, we will do a deep dive on these issues and more tomorrow. We will discuss nuts and bolts of all the strategies and the strategy measures, defensive measures. And if you feel that your staff might benefit, do let us know and we'll follow it up. Thank you very much, Vipin, Nitin, and Belly, as well as Anubhav and Bhushan for your insights. And also thank you very much for all the CEOs present here for making it interactive with some relevant questions. And these gentlemen will be available if you want to have a one-on-one conversation. So thank you very much on behalf of Daily FT and SICRA for being a part of a very insightful CEOs forum on cybersecurity. We really wish it will not be a crisis, but if is, but just don't be complacent like most Sri Lankans, be proactive as the panel highlighted in terms of your own strategies on an unknown threat. So thank you very much. Have a good day.
For more latest news, subscribe to FTTV.